Now, my favorite medium to use in the nature journal is watercolor. It's very easy to use once you learn how to control the water and the effect different layers of different colors have over each other. We're going to start with getting just the darks down on the birds, just kind of mapping it out. I've got it dark in the video, but I normally do not have my sketches this dark, but I wanted to make sure y'all could see them. But this is just mapping it out. It's just an initial layer. Basically, this layer is just to get color on the paper. And these are not going to be finished completely like my usual artwork is. These are just going to be able to give me the distinguishing factors in the birds that I need to know. And the color, making sure I get the colors accurate for future paintings that I may want to do with house finches in them. Make sure I understand the bird. That's basically what this page is about. So we're just going to lay some of the browns down. Now, don't get caught up in what colors. Different brands of watercolor have different names, and just because you have one color in, say, Winsor and Newton, it's not going to be the same in something like Holbein or Daniel Smith watercolors. So basically trial and error. What you'll see here is I use several neutrals, cool and warm. I use several reds, cool and warm, several yellows, cool and warm, and several blues, cool and warm. And these create what I use to mix every other color. I do this because I like to paint outside, which means I need a limited palette. You'll probably hear the locusts and the birds in the background chiming. And that's because I paint outside a lot, and I'm recording outside at the moment. There are a lot of house finches in the backyard for me to sit here and watch while I am painting. Like you see here, I'm just mapping out this bird, getting some of the darkers in the darker areas, not necessarily the darkest darks. I'm not following my usual formula for painting because this is not going to be a finished painting. This is just getting the idea down. Now this takes time because it will be a little more involved than, say, Nature Journaling 101 that I did, where all the detail and color was in the gopher tortoise, and everything else to get the detail, to learn about the species for future paintings, was pen and ink. So this is a little more involved because I am using watercolor for all of it. But this year we had a pair of house finches build a nest in the wreath on our door and lay eggs. The eggs did not hatch, unfortunately, but we did have a lot of house finch fledglings in the backyard this year, so that's where you see the fledglings at the bottom of this page. And my goal with the fledglings is just to get the idea down so that I can remember it, get their expressions and personality of being a fledgling down with, I can't remember if that was mama bird or daddy bird. I'll have to look at my reference photos. Feeding the babies. Even though they're fledged, they still get fed while they're learning to hunt and fend for themselves by their parents. Okay, these two are going to be a little more detailed in painting. They won't be fully detailed, but they will be a little more detailed than the bottom. The fledglings at the bottom, I just want to get the gist of it. But these two, I want to make sure I understand the markings on house finches. So this is a pair that I watched above the bird feeders. It's fun to watch them. They actually have a little mating dance before they start laying eggs. Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Feel free to stop the video when you need to and catch up. Do not feel that you need to have this video going and trying to keep up with it at the same time. But I am going to speed it up a little while for the rest of this. You'll see me move over to the eggs in just a minute. I'm going to move over here to the fledglings at the bottom. They're lined up on a little fence, which my feeder is hanging off of. And just the same as I did above, but even a little looser. I'm just throwing in color at this point. I'm trying to get the little eyes in there, just basic. I'm not trying to create a work of art here. I just would like to get the paint down and understand the character and personality of these little fledglings. Now it's time for the nest and the eggs. Mark out some of the little dots because the spots on the eggs actually are the larger end of the egg, and that'll help me remember as I'm painting. So I'll put those in quickly here so I remember which end of the egg is which, because they're not shaped quite like the chicken eggs we eat. They're pretty even all the way around, so this will help me remember my direction when I'm painting, which will help me with highlights and shadows. We're going to start the nest. I'm just going to do the basic idea of a nest. Get a little bit of realism but not detail into it. And that will help me remember for a future painting. I would like to do, maybe next spring, a series of paintings with birds in their nests. And this will help me remember that. I'm just using a mixture of the browns here. It doesn't really matter at this point as long as it's darker, because this is the base foundation layer. We'll discuss brushes real quick. I'm using a very small brush here. I think this is a 1 or maybe a 0. And I'm just getting in some direction for the nest. You see I'm painting in the directions with it, and I just need a little point for that. So even if you're using a larger brush, just use the tip, give you the same effect. And I'm kind of outlining the eggs so that I know where they are. And like I said, the actual shade of brown here does not matter, just any of your neutrals will work. You keep seeing me pause because I'm just making sure I'm going in the right direction. And I'm also painting outside, so I get distracted for a second here and there. We have quite a few bird feeders, some bird houses out here, hummingbird feeders. They tend to distract me sometimes, in a good way. There's a leaf off to the side over here. I want to put the nest just a little around it. This nest is from the wreath on our door. So I took a picture of it pointing down So you don't really see the wreath, but there was a leaf or two in the way. I'm going to put those in there because it shows that the bird put the nest between the wreath and the foliage to protect it from the weather. Okay, just keep going as we are. I'll pop in and out as there are noteworthy moments for me to pop in, keep painting. If you need to, stop the video and pause it, catch up, or play around with brush strokes or mixing colors, and then come back. No reason to be in a rush. Nature journaling should be fun. Okay, let's map in this little bar or hanger that the birds are standing on above the bird feeder. It's wrought iron and it's black. So I'm just going to map it in lightly with kind of a bluish black. I mix all my blacks. I do not use the black that comes in watercolor sets because I want my black to represent the tonal values around it. In this case, the various neutral browns and the reds of the birds will go real well with a bluish black. So I've used a dark neutral, I've used a touch of red, and a dark blue. And that will give me my black. And you can play around with your reds and your neutrals and your blues and just kind of get a feel for the different colors of black you can come up with. When I was painting a leopard, it worked out really well to make it almost a violet black to go with the red underpainting. And here, like I said, we're going to go with the blue undertones, almost a Davies gray, dark Davies gray, if you're using pre-mixed. Getting in the direction, I'm not really worried about my edges right now. Like I said, this is not a final painting. Just get a little bit of the perspective in here with the thickness and thinness and mapping it out. Keep painting. Okay, it's time to mix a little red and come up with a color that will match the male house finch. They get their color from their food and the type of berries and things they eat. So they'll vary from a little bit brighter red to an oranger red to almost a dark brickish red in color. So I'm going to just kind of go with a happy medium here and do kind of a brickish orange red. It's not really a dark brick red, but it does have the earth tones to match the tonal value of the rest of the page, yet still it is fairly accurate in the colors of the house finch. Like I said, this is not a perfect painting, so I'm just getting in the idea of what the house finch looks like and any distinguishing features of the house finch, for instance the color, that I need for a future painting of one. And if I want to go back and teach my grandbabies how to identify one, I want to make sure they can understand that from this page. I'm going to add a little red to the one down below too while I'm at it, where Daddy's feeding his babies. They've left the nest, but the parents do feed the fledglings for a while until they learn to hunt and fend for themselves. Usually a few days, I believe. And then they're off on their own. They're very loud, though, when they're around and Daddy's feeding them, because they've left the nest, but they'll perch, like here on a fence or somewhere, a limb or something, and they just cackle away until Daddy and Mama brings them their meal. They're actually quite adorable. While I'm waiting for this red to dry to work around it, I'm going to add some shadows. Very lightly. This is not going to be that's just the foundation layer. So I'm just going to indicate where the shadows are here. There we go. This would be good practice if you're learning to see shadows and highlights. Eggs are a very good shape for that. Now these eggs are kind of bluish, grayish white. And I'm indicating that with the color I'm choosing, almost the same color I used for the feeder stand that the 2 house finches are standing in. I've just diluted it down with a lot more water and using it for shadows, and that's tying the two together there. My edges are really rough at the moment, but the idea is starting to pop up. This is just getting paint on the page. You always, no matter whether you're at the beginning or towards the end though, always paint in the direction of whether it's fur, feathers, shadows, shape. Paint in whatever direction the texture and the shape is indicating for you. And that will make a difference down the long run as you layer. You notice I'm just putting a basic lighter diluted brown on the nest, and even though it's just a solid layer of it, it's going, each one edge is in the direction that the nest is shaped. Okay, keep going. We're just going to layer a little more, this foundation layer. Getting in a few more darks. Keep painting. Again, stop when you need to. Experiment on other blank sheets of paper if you need to. Don't be scared to make mistakes. That's what this is all about. It's our nature journal. It's not an art piece we're going to hang on the wall.